Hello and welcome to this edition of the MGE Podcast. The MGE Podcast is a weekly show for dentists and dental professionals to be able to learn all sorts of advice and information regarding practice management and being able to grow their practice. You're going to be hearing from industry professionals as well as MGE clients who actually have used the management system to be able to grow their business. The point of this podcast is for existing clients as well as people who are not MGE clients to be able to learn and apply it to their business so that they can provide a higher quality service to their patients. Enjoy the show. Hello, everybody. Neil Winteregg. Welcome back to the MGE Podcast. I'm a senior seminar instructor here at MGE, and I am joined with one of our clients, Dr. Bryant Nguyen. Welcome, Dr. Wynn.
Thanks for having me.
Flower Mound, Texas, you said?
Yep, just north of Fort Worth.
North of Fort Worth. So Dr. Wynn is here. You're doing Seminar C this weekend. We're wrapping up Seminar C. Is this your second time going through the ABCs?
This is actually the third.
This is the third time going through the ABCs.
Yeah.
Smart man. So I brought you in today. I wanted to sit and talk with you. You and I were talking just a little bit downstairs, which gave me the idea to come on up. You've obviously done well with the MGE program.
Absolutely.
You said collections are up about 300%.
Around there.
Yeah,
Yep.
and you've been a client. When did we first meet? I forget.
2016.
2016. It was in Dallas, right?
In one of the free seminars in Dallas.
One of the free
That's
seminars
right.
at that downtown Marriott.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that place well. Go there all the time. Was just there about a month ago.
I'm sure you're there a lot.
Go
a
there
lot of traveling. Yep.
A lot of fun. I love going out on the road. I love meeting new people like yourself. So anyway, thanks for joining us here.
Yeah.
The point of this podcast is for existing MGE clients to stay connected, listen to good advice, good ideas by their peers, but also for people who aren't MGE clients to be able to learn something that's going to help them in their practice.
Sure.
Obviously, I want them to learn more about MGE and have us become more real to them and find out that we have real people and not like a paid actor sitting here, right?
Definitely not paid.
Definitely not. So anyway, why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you to that first MGE seminar in Dallas? You didn't have to you didn't pay to be there. It was a free seminar. You showed up. What made you want to come and learn? How did you hear about us? What was going on at the time?
Well, I would say all by accident, actually. At the time, we were doing okay. Getting plenty of new patients in, but we were stagnant.
Okay. And how old was the practice?
At the time, 3 years.
So you'd had it for 3 years.
Yeah.
You opened from scratch?
Opened from scratch.
Okay.
Been open 3 years and just was not seeing growth.
Okay.
At that point, I started to look into consultants, some of the big names, 2 or 3 out there, and I just happened to get a postcard from MGE.
Direct mail does work.
Exactly, it does. It does. And so with that, that's kind of where it started. I said, there's nothing to lose.
Yep.
Let's give it a try. I mean, if we like it, great. If we don't, again, no cost.
Yep.
So it started there, and looking back, we've skyrocketed. Just like you said, over 300% growth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So and that's just in 2 years now.
Yep, a little over 2 years with MGE, and our staff has tripled. Office space we're maxed out on.
How many ops do you have?
We have 5.
5 ops. Okay.
And at the time, I had just installed my 3rd one. But again, we weren't. Yeah.
So you actually had 3 equipped.
Yes.
And now you've got all 5 equipped.
All 5, and we're maxed
more.
out. So right now we're adding days.
Adding days because space-wise.
Yes.
You're limited by space.
Exactly. So we're trying to maximize kind of our overhead.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the new problem we're running into.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So interestingly enough, you said off camera here when we were just chatting for a minute, new patients wasn't your problem when we met, which everybody I meet is convinced that new patients is their number one problem.
That was definitely not our problem. I mean,
so you didn't have a new patient problem. How many new patients were you getting?
Averaging between 40 and 50 a month, which is very healthy.
Absolutely.
But we weren't seeing growth. So we figured it was a problem with, some internal problem, problem closing that back door, making sure that our patients aren't leaving. But we couldn't figure it out.
Okay. That's awesome. Okay, so what did you find out when you must have seen something at the free seminar that obviously gave you a new point of view about it or whatever, right? But what did you find out if you're here doing the ABCs for your 3rd time? Then obviously you found the answer and you've tripled. What was it for you, or what was it that you found out was the problem as to why you were getting so many new patients but the growth was stagnant?
Absolutely me. As much as I'd hate to say it, it was me.
It was you?
Yes.
Oh,
and a big part of that is just mindset and, wanting the best for patients, but not being able to get them healthy.
Okay.
You know.
So, like, what was happening? Like, you were laying out a treatment plan, and then they would just do what the insurance covers?
Well, again, different problems, whether that or just, I would say, being reasonable with the stuff that they would say, I just don't have the time for that, don't have the money for it. Again, the biggest key is, I think, learning that, hey, when you hear these things, it's not maybe the truth.
Yeah.
And being able to get past that and getting patients healthy has been just amazing for our practice.
So patients are getting healthier.
Absolutely.
How has that changed your clinical skill set?
It's expanded so much. I mean, I guess before getting out of residency, opening up practice, my focus was always, CE. What can I learn? What can I learn? How can I be better at what I do?
Like clinical?
Yeah.
Were you like a clinical CE junkie?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Always learning, staying on top, all the new advances in technology, materials. I'm on top of it.
Yeah.
But it would end there. Again, you go to these CEs, a lot of these clinical CEs, and you're motivated, but you get back and you find that you're doing the same thing over. Mm-hmm. And you're not really applying a lot of the stuff that you're learning in these CE courses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because the patients, from a clinical perspective, weren't accepting the treatment plan?
Oh, absolutely. That's absolutely. Again, patients don't really care what clinical CE you've gone to.
Yes.
That's the biggest thing is, you may be excited about it, but it will typically end there.
Yeah.
Even getting staff excited about some of it can be difficult.
Like you'd come back from a CE thing,
yeah.
we're gonna do this now. And
yes.
they're like, come on, this is Doc on one of his
and that's
cases
that's on a whole nother podcast for sure. But yes, getting patients to be able to accept the stuff that you can offer them, I think is the biggest thing.
Well, that's what I find all the time. Now, I'm not a clinician, and I always let everybody know, I'm not a doctor, right? But being able to do all of these clinical things and having them in your tool belt doesn't really do anything for you if you can't get the patient to see why they need
exactly.
Right? Well, why do an implant when we can just do a bridge, or why do a root canal, core, and a crown? And it's great that you have a CEREC when we can just pop the tooth out and I don't have to worry about it. These are real life problems that dentists are running into all the time. And
I see it all too often where a lot of dentists invest in CE courses, equipment, expensive equipment, and they just say, it just didn't work for us. And I would say it's not the tool, it's the person using the tool.
Yeah. So. No, definitely. I had an MGE client stop me in the hallway. It was probably like 6 months ago that she stopped me, but I've known her for a little while now. When we first met, she was small practice, struggling, not really paying herself. And then so she stops me in the hallway, and not only is she telling me about how great it is that she's paying herself now, and that's always awesome when somebody's like, well, I wasn't paying myself and now I am. But she said that, Neil, there was a huge change. She was like, I had a huge gain from MGE that I was not expecting. And I was like, well, what's that, right? Because she said that her crowns now are better than before. Because instead of doing like one here and a crown there and a crown there, now she's doing like a number of crowns. And so it's like she's gotten faster, she's gotten better clinically because now she gets to do more crowns and she gets to, did you...
I would agree 100% with that. And it's something that I haven't even thought about. So, it's amazing that you bring that up. I kid you not. It allows you to be able to not only expand your tools, tool belt there, but to become even better at what you do. And ultimately, I'm sure majority of dentists out there, they want to be the best they can be.
Right.
You can't do it if you're not treating patients.
That's right. That's right.
So you can watch as many CE videos, go to as many hands-on courses, but until you get in there and you're working on live patients, that's the best way to learn.
Right. So have you noticed your clinical skill set?
Oh, absolutely. I've gotten so much more efficient with a majority of my procedures.
Yeah.
Even more complicated ones, we're doing all sorts of stuff. Implants, all-in-fours, all of that stuff that we're doing. Again, if I didn't have this information, I wouldn't be able to even start to get a patient to accept this treatment.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, I love these kind of things, surgeries, implants. But again, if I can't get patients to say yes to it, I'm never going to be... Yes, right? Exactly.
Yeah. So from a clinical perspective, you're having a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah. I'm able to do the things that I enjoy doing.
what is it that you like doing? What's your favorite stuff to do?
Full mouth rehabs, we do those. Again, implants, all on fours, things like that. And I mean,
were you doing that 2 years ago before we
Absolutely
met?
not.
No. Okay. So you were stuck like pretty much like drill and fill kind of.
Did I have the knowledge for it? Yes. No doubt about that. Residency prepared me for a lot of that, but residency didn't prepare me to
So
get
you had all
patients
the
to say
CE
yes.
training,
Yes.
but you weren't able to implement it.
Absolutely. That's the biggest key. Being able to utilize all the stuff that I've learned would not have been possible without MGE.
Right. And see, that's it's always refreshing when I hear stuff like that. Like for me, talking to clients like we're doing here, it's refreshing for me because that's what I tell everybody, right? And then I'm like, oh, I have a client agreeing with me, woo, right? But it's like when a dentist says the best way to improve your clinical skills is by doing more of it. Everybody always tells me like, well, once I learn how to do implants, then I'll come and I'll do your ABC seminars. And I'm like, no, it's backwards.
I would agree with you.
Like,
I would agree with you.
You have to learn how to sell the implant before you can deliver it. And just because you can deliver an implant doesn't mean you're going to make more money.
Yes.
And this is what happens with the clinical viewpoint all the time. I use the example at the free seminars that I talk at. So practice does $600,000 1 year, right? So in collections, practice does $600,000, and the dentist at the end of the year goes, we did 600 last year, we did 600 the year before. I need to learn how to do implants. And so they spend 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, $60,000, fly to third world countries, practice putting implants into people's heads. And then at the end of that year, they collect $600,000 again. And they go, Invisalign, I need to learn how to do Invisalign. And then they keep expanding their clinical skill set.
Yeah.
And each time you do that, you're buying more equipment. You're buying a CEREC, you're buying lasers, you're buying drills, you're buying everything you need to be able to do the implant, and you're making the same amount of money. You're actually losing money every year.
Yeah.
See, just because you can do it doesn't mean you're actually going to do it.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing for most dentists, not being able to understand that part that you just said there.
Yeah.
Again, you can go take as many CEs as you want, but until you can get a patient to say yes, it makes no difference.
It doesn't make a difference.
Yes.
And it doesn't make sense to spend a lot of money and time to learn how to do a clinical procedure, and then like 2 years later you've done it like twice. You're not very confident with going in and placing an implant when you've done like 2 of them in a year. You're like, oh, I think I need to do another implant course. Then you go and you do it again.
Yes.
But you still don't play it. You still don't place it because you still can't talk to the patient about it. I always say, like, if you can't get the patient to do the bridge now, why are they going to do an implant now?
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of dentists get so focused on ROI. They go and say, if I buy this, what kind of ROI am I looking at? Ultimately, to maximize this, MGE has been the key. And so anything that I feel like I've implemented since MGE, it's been successful. That's the crazy thing. It hasn't mattered what it was that I started to implement. Yeah. I would say, we jumped on Invisalign just right before we started MGE, and it was just, a case here, a case there. But now it's almost like, wow, where are these cases coming from? My goodness.
They were there the whole time.
They were there the entire time. And that's what kills me is, I wish I would have had this information right when I started practice. Opened up my practice. Yeah, even before.
I tell people, do the ABCs like 3 months before you open.
Absolutely, because, I would have been able to hit the ground running way faster. Right. Versus kind of muddling along. Yeah. Getting to the point where it's just, things are just so stagnant.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, you started Invisalign right before MG, so that's a good comparison. So you do a case here, a case there.
Yeah.
Now, how many cases do you do of Invisalign do you think you do a month?
So every month since, we've been hitting about 15 per month, which is killer. Solid. Which is killer, because, before we were like, oh, we got one this month. That's excellent.
We got one this month. Everybody's going to the movies.
Yes, yes. But the game always changes. It always gets bigger.
Yeah.
And the great thing about things like Invisalign, whitening, patients want it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't feel confident in giving patients that, then that's what's holding you back. Mm-hmm. It's not the patients. The patients are there. Mm-hmm. Hell, I think pretty much at least half of my patients on their new patient forms, one of the questionnaires is, would you like to improve your smile? At least half of them say, yes, I've heard about Invisalign.
Yeah.
So it's there.
It's a common thing.
Yes.
It's just getting the patient to go ahead and do it.
Yeah. Well, again, Invisalign spends a lot of money on marketing.
They're marketing for you.
People know it. People come and ask you for it.
Yep.
But again, if you're not comfortable enough to deliver, then, What's the point of going through all this CE to learn to do it when you can't get patients to say yes?
Yeah. Now let me ask you another question, because usually when I meet people and they say, "Oh, I've plateaued, I've done this, I've done that," and I say, "Well, what if you could double?" And they're like, "Oh, I don't want to double, right? Like those numbers are just too high, right?" And then all of a sudden they double in like 6 months, and then they're like, what if I double again, right? So when we first met, would it even have occurred to you that 2 years later you would have tripled by now?
No.
Okay. And now that you have tripled, are you happy with where you're at, or you want to
No.
Okay.
Again, the game is always changing. And again, like I said, when I first started, I didn't view it that way.
Right.
Whereas just, I just got to make ends meet. I'm happy if I'm
Pay
able
those
to pay the
practice
bills.
loans.
Yes, exactly. But the game changes. You start to expand and say, wow, I've exceeded what I was, hoping to barely get. And all of a sudden, wow, what else can I do?
Right.
So that's kind of the point where I'm at where,
Now you're
what's the
looking at,
next game?
What's the next game, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Games is a big thing at MGE.
Yes,
And
it is.
People who are losing in dentistry or in life or in games, playing a bigger game is always scary. But then as soon as you start to win, you start to realize, hey, I can do this. And
Yeah.
I went from this to this, and now I can double, now I can triple. Now you've already talked about in 2 years you went from 3 ops to 5, and now 5's not even enough.
Yeah.
That's a big game, and you would never have believed that if the first time we met I said, "Oh, by the way,
Absolutely
you're
not.
going to equip those other 2 ops in 12 months." You would have been like, "I'm out of here. This guy's up."
I would agree. I was extremely skeptical coming in.
You were skeptical.
Absolutely. I came in and said, well, let's see. It's free, so, again, nothing to lose, but let's see what they have to say.
I love it when people are like, "Well, if I can learn one thing, it'll be worth my time." I'm like, "You're going to learn one thing in 10 minutes."
Absolutely. I mean,
How far was it into the seminar when we first met? How far was it in the seminar when you were like, "This is different"?
We signed up, I think, at lunchtime.
Okay. You signed up for the ABC seminars at lunch.
Yes.
Smart man.
By lunchtime, I sat down with my office manager and said, you know what? I think this is going to be the key to us moving on to the next step.
Yep.
And she looked me in the eye and said, you know what? I absolutely think so. And I got that affirmation and said, you know what? I think this is going to work for us.
Yeah. No, well, that was a smart move.
Absolutely. It's a life-changing move.
Yeah.
That's the big thing for me is, again, we're struggling. The practice is struggling. I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And
so winning in the practice, has it freed you up personally?
absolutely.
You get to do
I'm
more
working less.
You're working less?
I'm working less.
That's good.
Again, working smarter, not harder, right? We've
Do you have
all
an
heard
associate
that.
now?
I do.
Okay.
I do. So we got a full-time associate working with me and getting him kind of trained on how we do things in our office. So he's a little bit newer, but things are looking up for sure.
People always tell me it's hard to find an associate. I don't think so. Why don't you give me how easy was it for you to bring an associate into a budding practice, thriving practice?
I still say that's something that I'm still working on.
Okay.
So that's definitely one of those that I'm fine-tuning.
Okay.
Again, as you grow, you experience growing pains.
Yep.
That's definitely one of my pains right now. He's a great guy, but just getting him trained.
Okay.
And that's on us.
But now you know how to do that.
Yes, actually we do.
Okay.
Yes. So a lot of that it's made it a lot easier, I will say.
Okay.
A lot of the information that we've learned here, being able to apply that has made, I guess, his transition much smoother.
Yeah. How many days a week are you actually clinically?
4 days a week.
4 days
Yeah,
a
so
week.
3-day weekends every week.
What were you doing before? How many days were you working?
5 days, and then Saturdays.
Some Saturdays.
Every other Saturday.
Is the practice still open Saturdays, or did you cut that out?
No, we cut it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So open 4 days a week. We've talked about expanding, but again, the key there is the associate.
Sure.
So that I'm not adding my days.
Yeah.
So getting him comfortable working with our patients and using our system.
Yeah.
And
Bringing in the associate at the right time is also key. We say that you have to at least be able to have the associate produce $40,000 a month to make it worth your time and their time. Right? Is that you have to be able to give them enough to do, otherwise they're going to get bored, they're going to leave, and that's usually what I find in terms of people bringing in an associate too soon.
Yeah.
Is that then the associate sits around and they're like, this isn't what I signed up for. I'm supposed to be busy, but the practice isn't busy enough to give them enough work. Now, obviously, you're good in that department, so now it's just bring them in. But I see too many people try and bring them in way too soon.
And for different reasons. Again, when we brought an associate, it was out of need.
Yeah.
Because again, I didn't have the time to
want
see
you
everyone.
Working 5 and 6 days anymore.
Exactly it. Again, we have a different kind of problem, but a good problem at that, where I can only see so many patients in a day.
Yeah.
I did get to the point where, I have 2 treatment chairs, 3 hygiene checks to do, and just bouncing around.
Yeah.
Again, that would eventually lead to burnout, and that's where we looked at, we need an associate.
Wow.
So we have not had issues with having trouble keeping him busy.
That's good. That's usually where it falls down with the associate, is that the practice. It's funny. I mean, a lot of times people are like thinking, well, I'm one dentist and I do X amount a month. So if I just bring in an associate, I'll double. And they think that the way to double the practice is to bring in another doctor, but that doctor just sits there because if the practice isn't growing and ready for it, they're not going to double your practice for you. So obviously, as an MGE client, as soon as you double and triple, you're like, okay, I need somebody. You can safely bring them in and not have to worry about it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's something that, before MGE, I mean, I struggled with the idea of even bringing on a hygienist at the time. And now we're at 3 hygienists. So
you have 3 hygienists now?
3 hygienists now. Again, right before I started, I did not have a hygienist yet. I mean, I didn't bring on my first hygienist until after I started MGE, but, at that time, that scared me. It's like, I can do hygiene right now. Why would I bring someone else in, and what if I'm sitting in my back office twiddling my thumbs?
Right. That's always the fear. Is like, well, if I don't have patients scheduled and I can do the hygiene, I don't have to pay a hygienist $35 or $40 an hour to do it, then I'm just going to do it myself. But then you get yourself totally stuck because
that's the think small mentality.
Yes.
That's exactly what it was, and that's something that I was able to kind of break out of once I started MGE.
How long did it take? How many seminars did it take for you to realize I got to get a hygienist?
I think within a month after starting MGE, I hired my first hygienist.
ABC seminar, you're like, okay, I'm in. Hygienist.
But again, like I said, just even the small things that I learned there, I was able to apply, and I think we increased probably 30,000 that first month. And again, I didn't change any way that I was treatment planning, diagnosing. None of that changed.
It was just the patients now saying yes instead of I'll think about it.
Exactly. And at that point, I was like, wow, I've run into a new problem. Now I don't have time to do hygiene. Again, good problem to have. So within a month of starting MGE, I brought on my first hygienist.
And how long was it before you cut back to Saturdays? Because most people I meet that work on Saturdays don't like working on Saturdays, but they feel like they have to. Now, some people like it, and if you like working on Saturdays, then fine. But most times it's like, yeah, I'm open Saturday. Like, right. How long was it like, you know what, I don't need to work on Saturdays anymore? How long?
I think that would have been about 6 months, maybe even a little less, where we just said, you know what, we can make better use of our time. We're going to fit everything into our Monday through Thursday. Those patients that are used to Saturdays, I think I literally had maybe one patient that said, you know what, it's not going to work because you're not open Saturdays.
Sorry.
Yeah.
That is what it is. So if you tripled, you grabbed 3 hygienists, an associate, and you cut back the hours that you were personally working, which means that your efficiency level must be through the roof. No holes in the schedules. Your primary care has to be packed, ready to go. Busy day.
Yes.
Doing the dentistry you want to do.
Absolutely.
Focusing on the bigger cases, giving some of the smaller stuff off to your associate now, I assume?
Yep, and that's kind of where he's at right now, is being able to kind of free me up in order to do these bigger cases, whether it's implants, full mouth rehabs, all in 4s. We've started doing a lot of Invisalign like we talked about earlier.
Yeah,
so
15 cases a month.
Which is, again, I would never have thought that we would have been anywhere close to that.
And clinically, you're all good.
Excellent. I'm doing the best dentistry I ever had. And I thought I was doing pretty good before, but I've fine-tuned it so much that it doesn't require thought. It doesn't stress me out.
Awesome.
And I'm great at it.
That's awesome, man. Very well done. Congratulations to you on all that.
Yeah.
Awesome, Bryant. Well, is there anything else that you would like to say to all of your fans out here in MGE Nation before we call it quits on this podcast? Any other words of advice that you would drop to either existing clients or people that might be listening in for the first time?
I get asked this all the time. Yes.
One dentist to another.
I would say the biggest thing is getting past that fear of, should I do it? I talk to dentists practically every week that I come, and I tell them, you know what? I have not looked back since I started with MGE. If I could have gone back and told myself to sign up for it a year earlier, 2 years earlier, I would. It's life-changing for the better, and it's an investment that is going to pay for itself tenfold.
A lot more than that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Congratulations on
Thanks
all your
again.
success.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're going to keep working together, and this is just the beginning.
Sure thing.
For all of you out there, thank you for listening, and thank you for joining us. If you would like to learn more about MGE, then go to our website. It's mgeonline.com. I do a lot of seminars all over the United States and Canada. You can click on the tab that says free seminars. I will probably be the one speaking, so I'd love to meet you personally and love to have you come on up. And if you'd like to talk or you have questions about how Dr. Wynn did what he did and is it right for you, go ahead and call 1-800-640-1140. Ask for Neil at the front desk. Tell them you listened to the podcast and you had some questions, and I will take as much time as needed to answer all those for you and find out how you're doing and do a little bit of a practice analysis and see if it's right for you. Otherwise, we'll see you next week at the MGE podcast.